It is 7 o'clock, and we're going to call to order the Ottawa City Commission regular meeting for August 4th, 2021. Would you please call the roll call, Melissa?
Mayor Kaler,
Present.
Vice Chair Crowley,
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore,
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Present.
Commissioner Wygand.
All right, we have everybody but Commissioner Wygand here, so I want to welcome, and which constitutes a quorum, and I want to welcome everybody who is either in the audience or who is joining us now or who may be joining us at a later date to be a part of this meeting. We begin every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the Invocation, which today will be read by, it should be read by Pastor Drew Redding from Grace Community. Oh, look at that. And you're here. So I'm so glad you're here because I was looking for you on my little list here. But welcome. We're so glad you're here, Pastor Redding. So you'll do the invocation after we start the pledge, or after we finish the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the way that you move and work in our lives. We thank you for the way that you continue to bless us. We thank you for being a God of peace, of grace, of love. Heavenly Father, we lift up our commissioners to you. We pray that you would be with them this evening and in the days forward, that you'd be granting them wisdom, that you would be just with their families and offering them peace. We pray that you would help them as they lead, that you'd give them discernment, that you would help them to be people of integrity and grace and truth. Heavenly Father, we pray all these things, and we continue to pray as you taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you leading us in the Lord's Prayer, too. It's always one of those quiet moments where are you a debtor or a trespasser? And we're either one or the other, and you never really know until you get into it. So thank you for being here tonight. So that leads us on to the consent agenda, which includes minutes from July 19th, July 21st, and July 26th. Is there an individual who would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is it seconded?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That moves us on to our regular agenda, which at this time we'd like to give the public an opportunity to visit with us regarding items that are on the agenda. I do have several I have a couple individuals who would like to have comment when an item is called. Is there anybody who would like to just make public comment today? Okay, then we will wait. But what I am going to do is I'm actually going to read the disclosure just so those that will be making public comment, you're kind of aware of the parameters in which that we have set up for public comment. So the parameters are as follows. Subject to the above restrictions, persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items on the agenda may do so when that item is called. Persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items not on the agenda but are under the jurisdiction of the City Commission may do so at the time that is called upon by the mayor. Comments on personal matters and matters pending in court or with other outside tribunals are not permitted. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and any presentation is for information purposes only. The governing body will take comments under advisement. That moves us on to declaration. At this time, I'd like to give commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication that they might have had that would influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Commissioners? Seeing a shaking of everyone shaking their head no, we will move on. New business.
Public hearing for consideration to close Community Development Block Grant number 20-CV-051 and to allow mayor to sign all documents relating to closeout.
The commission will address any comments or concerns regarding the grant performance, and I believe that Taylor is on the line with us today. Taylor, can you give us a short just overview? I know that we talked about this in some pretty great detail in City Commission study session, but what can you do for a few sentences to tell us about the closing out of this block grant?
So the City of Ottawa expended all $132,000 to businesses. You guys funded 10 businesses. 71 jobs were retained. 63 of those jobs were low to moderate income. And you locally paid $6,600 for the administration. And so now we are just ready to release the contract with the state or with Kansas Department of Commerce. So we can address any comments or concerns from the public, and then the commission can sign the documents that we went over in the study sessions, which just state basically that all the funds were spent and that you agree, you approve of the closeout of the grant.
So Taylor, I know that the title of the grant doesn't necessarily tell the public if they're watching this, but this particular grant is specific to COVID relief, correct?
Correct. It was specifically for your city to award to businesses to reimburse expenses that they had already incurred. They had to be approved expenses by the Kansas Department of Commerce rules. It was just to help in retainage during COVID-19.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have additional questions for Taylor regarding this particular grant or the closeout of this grant? What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:07 for consideration of any public input that they may have regarding the Community Development Block Grant. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we will close that public hearing. And I don't even believe that we need a motion to approve that. Once we've had a public hearing, we will sign the documents and get them back to you, Taylor, so that we can do our due diligence on closing out this particular grant. We appreciate your service, Taylor. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
So that moves us on to item 11.
Request for approval to publish joint notice of hearing to exceed 2022 revenue neutral rate and 2022 budget.
Staff is requesting that the governing body to approve the joint notice of publication for the notice of hearing to exceed the 2022 revenue neutral rate and 2022 budget hearing on September 1, 2021 at 7 p.m. Once the publication occurs, the governing body may only lower the published budget amounts. And I believe Ms. Landis will be addressing this matter, probably in brevity, since she's gone through it many times.
Absolutely. Just 2 points to bring to your attention. This is the notice. We're just asking for your approval of the notice to the public for the public hearing. Typically, you would see one notice. This is a combined notice for both the exceeding the revenue neutral rate and the public hearing for the budget. It does give the public the date, time, location, all of those things, as well as the revenue neutral rate and the published rate for the 22 budget. When we get to the point of holding both hearings, and then you'll have the opportunity to adopt the budget, you may adopt something lower than the published rate and ad valorem tax dollar amount printed, but nothing higher than those rates. Something we didn't bring to your attention last week, but I wanted to make sure that you're aware of, is that when we did sign the resolution to give the county notice of holding the hearing for a revenue neutral rate, the mill levy that we placed on that document form, which was the 45.956, is the maximum amount that we can publish for this publication for the notice. So in support, or I guess to explain further our conversation about the auditorium budget, things like that, we've come up with some ways to tackle, and we can talk about that at a later date, but we're not able to add anything back for publication for you to consider later, but we do have some other ideas in that area that we can help to get those things moving in the right direction. So unless you have questions, that is all I have for you as far as comment, and we would just ask for your consideration of approving the notice so we can have it published in a timely manner.
So I know that, Ms. Landis, that we are, of course, addressing Senate Bill 13, which is a new process for us and for all governing bodies in the state of Kansas, in which that a revenue neutral rate is required, or we are required to publish if we go above that. And so what you're saying to us is that we can absolutely positively not go above 45.496 mils, and that was the published number?
It's 45.956.
956, got those wrong? 956, okay, I don't know where I got the other ones. 956, okay, but that is our absolute max.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Ms. Landis?
I'd just like to point out that this mill levy is still lower than our last year's mill levy, 46.703, so we are coming down on that number, so I'm happy about that. And with that said, I'll make the motion, we approve item number 11 on our agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the published notice of joint hearing. Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand is absent. Commissioner Skidmore?
He's
Oh,
on.
is he on?
Zoom.
No, he's off now.
Or he's
Oh, he's
Oh.
off again.
Yeah, it's like he fell off.
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
And Mayor Kaler?
Okay. And yes, I vote yes. And actually, I do see Commissioner Wygand's phone there. Commissioner Wygand, can you hear us? I just don't know if he has any kind of visual. We will wait. Motion carries 4-0. That moves us on to item 12 on the agenda.
Request for approval of ordinance authorizing bond financing for electric system cooling tower.
This ordinance authorizes the issuance of GO bonds, general obligation bonds, in the amount not to exceed $485,000 for the cost of certain improvements to the city's electric system. I believe that Tyler Ellsworth, who we hope your cup of coffee behind you is very warm, or maybe it's iced coffee at this point because it's August, with Kutak Rock is going to explain this particular ordinance for us.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Can you all hear me well enough?
We can. Thank you, Tyler.
Terrific. Well, this item, item 12 on your agenda, is request to approve an ordinance that is in connection with a prefabricated cooling tower that your electric utility is in the process of acquiring. The cost of the cooling tower is approximately $465,000, and we looked at two different options for financing this acquisition and installation. We looked at bond financing and we looked at tax-exempt lease financing, and with staff, we've determined that financing this installation through bonds is a better alternative. So the ordinance that's on the agenda for your consideration this evening authorizes bond financing for this cooling tower, and it also authorizes staff to go out and actually acquire the tower and have it installed, and then reimburse those expenditures from the proceeds of a bond issue, which we'll talk about on the next item on your agenda. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the ordinance.
Commissioners, do you have questions of Mr. Ellsworth regarding the ordinance that's before us authorizing the bond financing? It appears as though our city manager may have something to add.
Commissioners, Richard Nienstedt, City Manager. At some point, after you take action on this, I would appreciate it if you would give Superintendent of Utilities, Dennis Thorpe, I do know him, Dennis Thorpe, just a couple of minutes to run through a couple of items on the tower, if you feel that's appropriate.
Mr. Thorpe, is that something that you would like to address before we entertain a motion? Is it information that we should entertain regarding the cooling tower?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, we would certainly yield to you and let you give us your insight.
I'm sorry, I never want to throw curveballs, and I should have had this on the agenda probably, but if you'll bear with me. I think a couple of commissioners have heard from the public a little bit about the cooling tower. I've heard from the public a little bit about the cooling tower, so I just wanted to dispel a couple of notions. First of all, this cooling tower is going to be put in place for our reciprocating units. We did put the stag unit out of service, and in that process, we would demolish the stag tower no matter what. The great thing that happened here is that we can reuse the basin that was associated with that stag tower for this new tower. So the demolish was gonna have to happen anyway. It just became a part of a better project. And so I wanted to dispel any notions that we were building a cooling tower for a unit that was put out of service. Yeah, we're, not the brightest stars, but we have figured out what we're doing. And so just want the public to know that these are dollars that are well spent. This is a 50-year project. This tower is something that's going to be around long after I'm around, and that these are dollars that are well spent to support our community power plant. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt how much good the power plant has done this community, and this is just a way to make sure that that continues to happen. Really all I got, just had heard some of these things and wanted to dispel any notions that anybody might have that we were moving in a wrong direction.
Director Tharp, one of the other things you mentioned to me was not only the fact that it could handle what we are, the need that we have now, but the fact that it's room for expansion too.
Yes.
We're always talking about more housing. We need more housing, and that's something that's going to require electricity, obviously. And with this cooling tower we're putting in, that could handle a lot of more houses in town.
That is absolutely correct. We currently have 4 reciprocating units that are good for about 18 megawatts of electricity. We know that doesn't support what our load is, our total load is, especially in the summertime or at peak times. But this unit does have capacity and will have the ability, should we decide at some point, to do another unit on that power plant compound, if that made sense some way. We would have the capacity in this tower to do so, yes.
And Director Tharp, we're replacing that tower too, is that correct, with this new tower? Are we replacing something, or is this just being added on?
We are demolishing the stag tower. That stag tower is the tallest tower. Everybody sees it out there. It's the tallest tower out there. We're demolishing that tower, then we are using that basin
Right.
to put the new tower in. So we're not having to go out and dig and build another basin.
Right.
This is another cost savings piece of this that I really didn't talk about that much. What that does is it gives us the ability, because this new tower will set in this basin, we can continue to operate until such a time that this tower is done and functional, because we can continue to use our existing towers, what we call our diesel towers. So they will still be functioning. Over the years, in fact, I was a part of that, we have created a cross connection between all of the towers. And so we will be able to function there. As soon as this tower is built, then we will be able to open a valve, flood this tower, and we'll be able to operate off of this new tower.
And so, just for clarification too, so this new cooling tower has a smaller footprint.
It has a somewhat smaller footprint, but nonetheless, we are still able to reuse this basin.
Sure.
That's the important
Yes,
part.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have additional questions or comments or anything for Mr. Ellsworth or Mr. Tharp regarding this ordinance for the electric system cooling tower? If not, I will entertain a motion if there is one.
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve item 12 on our agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the ordinance authorizing bond financing for the electric system cooling tower. Is there any comments? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygant?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler.
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you, we appreciate it. We appreciate the information, Director Tharp, and thank you, Tyler, for your information. Don't go anywhere because we're gonna call you up on 13-2.
Request for approval of resolution authorizing the public sale of general obligation bonds.
This resolution authorizes the public sale of approximately $6,290,000 of general obligation refunding and improvement bonds, Series 2021B. And we have, so nice to see you in person. Mr. Arterberry's back in person. So glad to have you back in person. And Tyler Ellsworth is also on with us too. And so would you like to inform us of this particular resolution?
Sure. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here in person. I appreciate that. This is really, as Tyler mentioned before, sort of a companion resolution to the ordinance you just adopted for the cooling tower. This bond issue would basically do two things. It would provide proceeds to pay for the cooling tower. It would also provide funds to refinance, or we call refund in our jargon, two outstanding bond issues that the city has, a 2007 issue and a 2010B issue. The nice thing about the refinancing is that those two old bond issues have interest rates of about 3.6 to 4% on them, and we anticipate that the new bonds would carry a rate of about 1.25%. That should generate about $600,000 in savings, which just dawned on me is probably going to be more than enough to pay for the cooling tower. So since all of these bonds are paid by the electric system, I think it's sort of a nice situation to be in, to be able to take advantage of those savings like that. If you adopt the resolution tonight, we'll continue the process of getting ready for the sale and plan on returning to the commission at your meeting on September 1 with the final results of the sale. And at that time, you would adopt a bond resolution and ordinance to lock in the interest rates and officially issue the bonds. So this isn't the final step for the commission, but it's an important one. So.
Commissioners, is there questions of Mr. Arterberry, or pardon me, I'm sorry, Tyler, did you, Mr. Ellsworth, did you have things that you would like to include, or comments that you would like to include regarding this GO bond sale?
Thank you, Mayor. No, nothing to add to what Mr. Arterberry has already provided.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioners, questions? My only question, and I ask it in the study session, I just want to make sure the public hears it again. We are not extending these bonds at all, but we are saving just simply by refinancing from almost 2%, if not 2.5%, because of the favorable bond ratings.
Right,
or the bond
yeah,
rates.
the length of the debt that's being refinanced is not being extended. You're simply lowering the annual payments on the bonds, on the debt. Yep.
Excellent. Always good to hear that. Commissioners, any additional questions? I will entertain a motion if there is one.
Mayor,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Jorgensen. I move to approve the resolution as described in item 13 of our agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Wygand?
I vote yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Arterberry and Mr. Ellsworth, for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you a couple more times. Like you said, this is just the beginning of the process, but we'll see you a couple more times before this is all possible, and be able to realize some savings for our citizens. So thank you so much.
Tyler, before you leave, we were, a mystery to solve is that a backdrop or is that real behind you?
Whose money is on the backdrop and whose money is on the actual live?
Good call, Tyler.
Okay.
Really good call. I said the
Touche.
coffee's really either old or cold, or somebody needs to help you out there.
Right, that's right. No, to be fair, it's a backdrop, yes.
I couldn't tell.
Oh, excellent.
And as long as we're keeping things on the lighter note,
Yes.
I think we've answered the question now about trespassing or deading.
Yes. Okay. Good point. Good point. Always good to keep it light. Thank you. That moves us to item 14 on the agenda.
Public hearing to consider condemnation of a single-family structure and accessory structures located at 615 North Mulberry in Ottawa.
This public hearing is being called for the consideration of condemnation of a single-family structure and accessory structures at 615 North Mulberry. The city staff will present details and the request for condemnation. Mr. Elmer is with us today. Hello, Terry. And what do you have for us today on the hearing? Oh, we can't hear you yet, Terry. We don't want to miss a word.
Oh.
Go there.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
There I am. Commissioners, Madam Mayor, we're here for 615 North Mulberry. Again, we're working to request for consideration and resolution for condemnation on this particular property for 615 North Mulberry. I know we've had quite an extensive history on this property with different ownerships as well. But also, I'm not certain if the owner is there in person.
He is, and I believe that he has asked to be here for he has asked for public comment. So we'll call on him as soon as you're done with your presentation.
And you should have a packet from him as well as far as what his plan is for the structure. And I know sometimes, a lot of times we do try to give grace to those property owners if they can bring them back into, make them habitable without having to condemn them and tear them down. So with this property, I would take it at your discretion or direction as far as what we do and how we proceed forward with this particular property on 615 North Mulberry.
All right. We are going to call the public hearing to order, and then I will entertain information from, is it Drew Martin or Drew Martinez? Martin. Great. All right. So let's open that public hearing at 7:27, and then Mr. Martin, if you'd like to come forward, we'd entertain the information that you have for us.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
So I'm not sure of the complete backstory Terry alluded to. I purchased this property in January, and February, March, April, got a little sideways with the contractor. He left with some of my funds, unfortunately. So trying to rectify that. We have cut down several large dead trees, done about half the demo on the work, got over 10,000 so far in the property. In the attached packet also have a general scope of work, current dimensions, future plan, contractor list I got from Terry when I met with him and Melanie in late June, and the couple of the general contractors I'm working with. Two of them are local here and already approved on the list. And the last, second to last is kind of a timeline, and the last is proof of funds, just to show that I won't be skipping out. I got the money to finish this off. So that's kind of my quick 3-minute spiel. I'd be happy to ask any questions or go into detail on any of this stuff.
Thank you for your comprehensive packet that you've prepared for, or that you've sent to us. I appreciate that. Commissioners, what questions do you have for Mr. Martin regarding this property on Mulberry?
Mr. Martin, you have a timeline for this project to be completed, estimated?
Right now, the estimated timeline is the beginning of December for the project to be completed.
This year, then?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Do you have other properties, Mr. Martin, in the town?
Not in Ottawa, I do not.
Okay. Do you have other properties in adjoining cities?
And I've got numerous in Olathe.
Okay.
And Mr. Martin, I just mentioned this one other time, we had a similar situation like this.
Sure.
But you're aware that if you get into the project and you walk away from it and you've spent some money on the project, we could still come in and vote to condemn it, you realize? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Elmer kind of walked me through the process, had a good long meeting with him.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. Martin, you alluded to that you own other properties, but have you ever done any flipping, any remodeling of this extent?
I have done one other one to this extent in Olathe, wrapping up another flip now, but not as bad. But this will be up there. That's why I'm leveraging a general contractor. I usually act as my own GC, but reaching out to professionals to make sure help with this one.
I am a contractor. I've done houses like this. I love it when people come to our town or locals do, a remodel of this kind of project. one thing I do want to commend you on, quite honestly, is I've sat here for 4 years on the commission, and I'm sure, there's been a lot more years sitting here, and we've read a lot of these, things where they go through their numbers, and we kind of shrug it and laugh at them, because,
Sure.
somebody wants to do a project to this extent for 25 grand, and
Yeah.
it's going to be done in, a month, and it makes no sense.
course.
But your numbers, they jive, quite honestly.
Appreciate that.
When I first saw the packet, I thought, here we go again, and read through it, and it makes sense. It really does. Even your timeline, I think you did a great job on that.
Appreciate that. Thanks for the feedback.
Commissioners, other questions for Mr. Marting regarding his request? It appears to me, anybody questions? I know that at least with Commissioner Jorgensen, possibly with Commissioner Jorgensen and Commissioner Skidmore, we've been down this road before where we have the potential to go a couple different ways here. We can, and this is where I believe our city attorney may need to weigh on this, because I'm not really sure if this is correct or not, but if my memory serves me correct, we have the capacity to condemn the structure, which will put it on a very short timeline, which will need to see marked improvement, or we can remove it and not condemn it and allow it to happen at the timeline in which that Mr. Marting has indicated, or we can not listen to any of it all and move forward and just say we're done. Does that at all highlight what our options are? I could completely have it wrong, sorry.
Blaine Finch, City Attorney. You have the ability to condemn the property in order that if renovations begin within a certain amount of time, and if they are diligently prosecuted, then the tearing down does not occur. The owner has time to continue to complete the project as long as progress is made, or you can remove it from the condemnation list altogether. We typically recommend that you do option 2 if you have an owner who says they're willing to make repairs and get that underway, because you're not eliminating the ability for them to renovate. It's the order will be to renovate or rehabilitate, or to have the structure removed. And if they do not commence work, usually we want the permit pulled within 10 days, work to begin within 30. And then if they are diligently working on that, even if it takes longer than the 30 days, the planning department continues to give them the time to get the project done.
So what you're suggesting, or what you're advising us to do, does that require a motion for us to do? And what would such motion sound like?
You would adopt the ordinance to condemn the property in order that it be removed, or that rehabilitation begin within the 30-day period. And so long as it is commenced and proceeding, then the owner will have the ability to complete the renovations and the property will no longer be condemned.
All right, does anybody else have questions for our city attorney regarding our options regarding 615 North Mulberry? We do need to, and we're not going to necessarily do that in this particular line item, but I think it's good that we know what our options are. Mr. Marting, would you like to say anything else regarding this, on this public hearing?
I'm totally fine to leave it on the condemnation list, and I'd be happy to provide periodic updates. The 30-day thing, definitely a goal, but right now with the backlog of contractor work, we'll definitely get all of our permits before then. But work, all the work inside and on the roof stuff might be closer to 45 or 60 days, just with how far our contractors are booked out right now. But other than that, I don't take any exception to anything to Mr. Finch proposed.
Will you be doing any of this work yourself?
No, I mean, just helping find subcontractors, so
Okay.
no manual labor myself, no.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
during this phase, communication is key, so
Absolutely.
keep those lines of communication with our planning department open. And if it takes 45 or 60 days, if they're aware of what the issues are, then they're good.
Right. Awesome, thanks for the feedback.
Mr. Elmer, have you had any contact from the neighbors about the condition of the house or anything like that?
Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official. Not any of the neighbors, nothing current. No, we have in the past, but nothing of recent.
I know sometimes we run into some in that condition and people are squatting in them, or the yard's a mess or something like that. And I was by there the other day and it was mowed and cleaned up, so that's good. I was just concerned because he had mentioned, leaving it on the condemnation list, and I think, with no, backfeed from, negative backfeed from the neighbors, that's not a bad idea.
Do you, Mr. Elmer, do you have access to a picture of 615 North Mulberry so that if the public is watching or looking, so they know what that particular structure looks like now, so that we can celebrate when it's done so well, if that's the way we choose to move? And can you, are there more photos than you have of that one, or is that the only photo that you have of 615 North Mulberry?
That is the one I have current. I don't have anything up for the rest of any of the other images.
Okay, but in the past, in our past study session packets, there have been multiple pictures.
That is correct.
Yes, and obviously the public could drive by. I wonder, is there anything else you'd like to bring up?
I don't have anything. That is an accurate representation of it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Mr. Elmer, is there anything else you'd like to bring up during this public hearing?
No, Commissioners and Madam Mayor, I'd be willing and happy to work with the property owner for 615. I'd love to see it being retained as opposed to potentially having to get it removed.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to close this public hearing. That will move us on to the next item on our agenda.
Request for approval of resolution to condemn an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure and accessory structure at 615 North Mulberry in Ottawa.
This resolution authorizes the governing body to declare the single-family structure and accessory structures located at 615 North Mulberry to be unsafe or dangerous, and to direct that such structures should be demolished or repaired and made safe and secure. So as it's been laid out to us, from what I understand, and I'm assuming that's what we all understand, is that we would need to adopt that resolution, and then as a part of that resolution, if we were to adopt the resolution, we could also add a number of days in which that work needed to be done to make this property safe and secure. Is that correct? I think that's correct. I don't know. Does it need to be 30? Can it be 45? I guess I'm looking at our city attorney to see. I mean, does 30 have a magic number?
Well, the statute and most of the best practice is to have that be 30 days that the work commences within. That does not mean it's got to be complete, and as long as it's diligently prosecuted after it's begun, it can take 45, 60, 90, 120 days, but it has to be started within 30. And I think the form of the ordinance that you have would be the standard that we normally apply when an owner comes in and says they want to try to work on the property.
Any questions, commissioners?
Mayor,
Yes. Mrs. Lee.
this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. I just wanted to add that the owner in this case has actually begun what we would normally consider one of the beginning steps, which is provide all the details that he's submitted for the hearing. So that is one of the steps that we usually look for as beginning. And I think we can probably manage the time to work with him just fine.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. Lee regarding her comments? All right, then I am looking for a motion to approve the resolution as listed in item 15, if there is one.
Madam Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve item 15 to go ahead with the condemnation of 615 North Mulberry with the commencement of the repairs to start within 30 days. And I'm even okay with the finalization of the project, as Mr. Marting had on here, of December 8th.
Is there a second on that motion?
Hello? Yes.
I'll second that, but with time, if weather creates a problem, it could go beyond the December 8th, we know, but I haven't seconded that motion.
All right, is there any discussion on the motion? I think we just want to see forward progress, and it seems as though that you may have that already in your wheelhouse. Commissioners, any other discussion? We will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Weigand?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
And Mayor Kaler.
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We look forward to driving by and seeing the structure coming back to its glory. So thank you, and we look forward to partnering with you on that. That moves us on to the next item on the agenda.
Public hearing to consider condemnation of a single-family structure and accessory structure located at 906 North Locust in Ottawa.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a single-family structure and accessory structure at 906 North Locust. City staff will present the details and the request for this condemnation. I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:40, and I'm going to yield it to Terry Elmer, who will make his presentation.
Again, good evening, Commissioners, Madam Mayor. 906 North Locust. This is a structure we are bringing forward for consideration and recommendation for condemnation. We've been working with this property and property owner for a little bit of time, but in our opinion, this is a structure that should be considered for condemnation based on the information that we're aware of and I've seen on the property. But again, I know I've spoken with the property owner. He is still wanting to repair the structure. So that is going to be at his discretion. He has not sent us anything as far as what he proposes to do with it, his timeline or any of that information. But we are recommending condemnation, request for condemnation on this particular item.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate you putting that visual up of the home. It appears as though Greg Hernandez is here to discuss this property and several properties actually today. Mr. Hernandez, what do you have to tell us today?
Yes, my name is Greg Hernandez. We're talking about 906 North Locust. Yes, I have been talking to a general contractor. That's part of the preparation that I was trying to do before this meeting. Obviously, it's not as detailed as the gentleman prior to me, Mr. Martin. My wish or my need is to repair that house, but in an effort to estimate what it would cost me to repair that versus doing something else with it, allowing the city to demolish it, it's a pretty close. I have not gotten a detailed information from the city yet to tell me exactly what needs to be repaired. I understand siding, painting, do the porch, and possibly some foundation work. But my general contractor hasn't had time yet to contact contractors to give me an estimate. The estimate is crucial for me because it sometimes would be easier to go in another direction if instead of remodeling. It's a good functional house. It's always been, and I prefer to try to rebuild it. There's a garage in the back of it that is usable that we are using right now that allows us to move things back and forth. It's very usable. As far as the information from my contractor, my general contractor, his name is Bill Harman, I believe, and he's let me know that he'd be able to get contractors to give me an estimate on that. As far as some of the options that have available to you, it may be, it wouldn't take very long for us to contact contractors and then schedule them to start doing work on the house. So having 30 days of lead time to have something done to help improve the house would be a benefit to me. versus, and I understand the condemnation process will still go forward, but giving that little time that I can significantly get a plan together to actually remodel the house would be beneficial and to allow us to start. At this point, that house is something that I'd like to keep in the Hernandez Trust as far as a livable house that's available to lower income people. Is there any questions, or do I?
Yeah. So, Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
You're speaking on behalf of the Hernandez Trust?
Yes.
Okay. And it appears, I was looking back in my agenda, and it appears as though this item came up 72 days ago
Well,
on our agenda.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm questioning, 72 days is a long time. And
Right.
I actually have been going under some construction at my house too, and so 72 days would not be acceptable to me without some movement. And so that is of concern to me, that 72 days have gone by since it has come to us. And
Right.
it sat on our city commission agenda here 72 days ago. So tell me about that, and
I was not aware of it, and I'm sure there may have been letters sent.
do we have your current address and a way to get a hold of you?
If you have it at 1024 North Mulberry, Ottawa, Kansas, 66067. Now, if you want my phone number, I don't know if it'd be advantageous for me to do it
Sure.
over the public, but I can give that to you at a later, after the meeting if necessary.
Have you worked with the community development department before?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, I haven't. I've never had anything to do with demolitions, other than some demolitions that I've already done that are on this list also. Yeah, so some of these demolitions I've already done, so, that's not an issue on those.
Greg, how long has the house been empty
Oh, it's been empty since March
of this year?
this year.
I see, okay.
Mr. Hernandez, you've been through a condemnation before, though, right?
Let's see, I think there was one before. Can you remind me of the address?
It would be your corner of 9th and Lincoln.
Nine?
The house caught fire.
Well, it was never condemned, it was rebuilt. Somebody purchased it from me.
Mr. Hernandez.
That was
I'm-
you.
I'm that somebody.
That was you, yes, yes.
It had been condemned.
Yes.
And obviously you had contacted me because I had talked to you prior about it.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you had been through a condemnation before
Oh,
with,
well,
with community development.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
just-
think that I've come before the,
Okay, okay.
the commission.
I,
But I did receive a condemnation, and it was at that time that you offered
Correct,
to purchase it from me.
I do have a question for Mr. Elmer. Mr. Elmer, can you tell me if Bill Harman is a licensed general contractor in the city of Ottawa?
Yes, Bill Harman is one of our licensed contractors.
Okay, thank you. I knew he was with his contractors, other contracting. Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions or comments or any input on this particular location for Mr. Elmer, Mr. Hernandez?
Just a question, Terry or Wendy, maybe either one of you, but if we vote to proceed with condemnation, what's the actual date would you estimate to be of the actual tearing down of the structures take place?
As Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official, as far as the actual date, I believe they have, I'd have to verify this, but I'm thinking 30 days, but again, I'd have to verify that.
Okay.
And Mr. Elmer, remind me, I think we had this conversation before, but I want to make sure that Mr. Hernandez knows for sure. Because he had mentioned if it was to be demoed, I think he'd like to do something else there. The way it's zoned, and maybe Mrs. Lee would answer this question. The way it's zoned, if we condemn it and it is demoed, that he could not put a residential structure back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
What is the zoning then? What is the zoning?
Terry Elmer, Building Official, I believe the zoning is industrial. Will that block?
This is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. We can always look at the zoning with him, but I think what I also heard him say was he wanted to be able to compare the cost of removal with the cost of rehabilitation. And typically what happens if they haven't made sincere efforts to get their contractors with our office and maybe even have Mr. Elmer take a tour of it so they can agree on the work plan, then what we do is we solicit bids. We can let him know what the estimate, what the bid results are. But I do want to say, because he said his comment was that the city remove it, just as a reminder to him and the public, when we do a removal, when that's our last option, and we clear the site, it would be both structures, and we would charge the cost of removal back to the property.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Mrs. Lee, because as staff knows, because they've heard me say it for 11 years now, nothing gives me more heartache than the taxpayer paying money for individuals who chose not to take care of their facility, or the maintenance of their residence or property that they owned. And I don't think that that's the taxpayer's responsibility. And Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Martin, I don't think it's the taxpayer's responsibility to tear down a structure that hasn't been properly maintained. So I hate to see that happen, and
Right.
Certainly would like it to become housing that we could bring back in. But I've got to be honest here. I'm looking at the pictures that Mr. Elmer sent us on May 23rd. It's wow. I'm not sure that, there needs to be some stuff done, it looks like.
Right, I understand that, I don't know what you're looking at as far as pictures, but I understand that maybe there might be a question about foundation work and sealing of the foundation to not allow rodents in and things like that. Cleaning up around the house, which is basically picking up bricks and whatever is left around the house that my former tenants had left. That's probably an issue too. Now the garage itself is perfectly good, but if the city, will the city allow me to keep the garage if I re-site it and paint it and bring it up to acceptance by the city?
I think that those will all be questions that will have to be addressed with community development. So
Right.
Mrs. Lee or Mr. Elmer could definitely help you through that
Right.
and walk you through that process.
Yeah, because I don't know what the issues as far as the garage was, other than it did need paint. And it's on a slab foundation, so there's nothing really that needs to be repaired on that.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mrs. Lee.
Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Just one thing that is different with this particular parcel and the other parcel that he owns on North Locust, the zoning may actually play a part. We almost always are dealing with structures in a residential area, and we are not able to leave an accessory structure without the primary residential use. We can check the zoning to see if storage is allowed as a primary use in that zoning classification, and then it's possible that the accessory structure could remain. But we all just need to be clear that then there will never be a residence on there again unless there's a rezone activity.
And I haven't heard anything about zoning and anything, but there may be exceptions to the zoning classification if I build a new house or put something else on it.
Mr. Hernandez, I
Yes.
think we probably just need to have a conversation.
Yes.
In the next couple of days, need to come into the office and visit with us, or we'll make an appointment with you.
Yes.
To talk about the zoning implication.
Right.
What we had understood
Yeah.
until this hearing was that you simply wanted to retain the residential structure.
Yes.
I think if it emerges that is not going to be possible for you, then we should talk about what the other options are.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other things that need to be, or any other items that need to be brought forward during this public hearing for 906 North Locust?
So I'm kind of understanding that at this point, we're going to approve the demolition, but allow a certain number of days to get something aligned or some sort of plan that is acceptable to the city council, to this group, or to the city commission, or the city
Community development.
community development group, yeah.
And Mr. Elmer, it's when we take it very seriously in the city of Ottawa
Sure.
when we condemn a structure, and so one of that is that there are several kind of check marks that we go by, and we certainly don't do that quickly, and we don't do that without great detail and without great knowledge
Right.
about what is going on with
Right.
every particular address that we address.
Yeah.
Sorry. But part of that is that we do have a public hearing, and that's why we're hearing from you and where we're
Right.
hearing from community development regarding that. So what we'll do is we will close that public hearing, and then we will entertain the options regarding what can happen with this particular address and the
Okay.
particular structures located at 906 North Locust.
Okay.
Okay? So is there anything else you'd like to bring forward to us during the public hearing today?
On this specific item?
Yes.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Then I will, and Mr. Elmer, anything else you'd like to bring forward?
No, madam, we're good.
All right, great. Then I will close that public hearing at 7:56, and that will move us on to the next item on the agenda.
Request for approval of resolution to condemn an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure and accessory structure at 906 North Locust in Ottawa.
This resolution authorizes the governing body to declare the single-family structure and accessory structure at 906 North Locust to be unsafe and or dangerous, and to direct that such structures may be demolished or should be demolished, or repaired and made safe or secure. Pardon me, I'm doing lots of ands and ors there, and just adding them in, lots of verbal gymnastics there. So pardon me. Commissioners, do you have questions about what our options are here, or what would you like to do? What is the will of the commission today?
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner.
I move to approve the request as described in item 17 of our agenda.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution to condemn the structure located at 906 North Locust. Is there any discussion among commissioners?
I'll just mention this to Mr. Hernandez. I've known you for a long time, I know, but I would move quickly on this. This is a kind of a thing we set a time in motion now, and we're kind of bringing your feet to the fire. So I would get into the city hall as soon as possible if something's going to be done. Don't wait too long.
I will get on that guy right away.
Okay,
You
just
know,
as word of
You
advice.
know, now that you see me, and I gotta keep my promise.
That's right.
Right.
All right, we got
That's
it.
why I avoid these meetings. I don't make a promise at a meeting
Yeah.
and not keep it, so.
And-
As far as the letting you know, guys, who would I contact?
Our-
to-
The staff at community development will keep us abreast
keep
of what
you
is going,
abreast, okay.
yes, you will not need to do
I
that
need to
directly.
talk to you guys.
Well, you can come at any time and visit with us. We'd love to hear from you. However, community development will keep us abreast of what happens if this were to move forward and the resolution should be passed.
Well, overall, you guys seem like pretty good people, so. So I might come just to visit. I don't know.
Well, and we'd love that. We'd love that. Any other discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Weigand?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
And Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Mr. Hernandez, we look forward to seeing you at the next item, but again, at community development very soon.
Right.
So we're going to move on to item 18 on the agenda.
Public hearing to consider condemnation of a single-family structure and accessory structure located at 908 North Locust in Ottawa.
This public hearing is being called for consideration of the condemnation of a single-family structure and accessory structure located at 906 North Locust. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation. I'm going to open up the public hearing at 7:59. And
908.
did I say what I?
You said
906.
906. That's okay.
9:06. Sorry, 9:08.
9:08.
I will at 9:08. That's my fault for. At 9:08 North Locust. Mr. Elmer, can you give us your overview, please?
Good evening, Commissioners. 908 North Locust. Again, coming forward with your request and consideration for condemnation for 908 North Locust, single-family resident that's been vacant from our records since 2017. We've sent letters to Mr. Hernandez and requesting some information and to address this property. So with that, we've had some communications with Mr. Hernandez, but we are looking at and requesting for consideration condemnation on this property as well for 908 North Locust.
All right, Commissioners, I believe that Mr. Hernandez is here to address the commission again. Welcome back, Mr. Hernandez. We're glad to have you here again. Can you tell us about your thoughts on this particular property?
Well, thank you very much, but I'd like to make a correction in the address. That entire property, 906 and 908, were two houses right next to each other. I believe that the plot on 908 was also extended out to include this house, which in actuality is 918, I think, Locust. So just for clarification, there is no house at 908. That has burnt down. So, as far as this house is concerned, I'm not sure that I can really justify a repair of this house. So this might be a combination that, even though I don't like it, I think maybe it's probably the best that would happen. So I haven't demolished it yet, and I'm not sure that I have a contractor yet to demolish it. So I'm in the process of going through that procedure, without having the city demolish it and then put it on my taxes. And actually, doesn't the city not really pay for that? They just divert it to my taxes, my property taxes?
No.
We pay for it, Mr.
Oh, do you?
Hernandez.
Okay.
then,
And when we
assess
say we
it
pay
to the
for it, the
property.
citizens
taxpayer,
pay
yeah,
for it.
taxpayer. pays for it.
Taxpayers to the city pay for it.
Right.
It appears as though the utilities have been disconnected and this property, it looks like some windows are gone.
Yeah, that's been unoccupied for maybe 2 years. So it's just something I've been sitting on, and I do need to take care of it. But I really wasn't put to that point as far as demolishing it until this meeting came up, which, I tend to agree with, that it's non-recoverable at this point, so.
Mr. Elmer, do you have other things that you'd like to address regarding this particular structure or this particular home?
No, Mayor, nothing else that we can need to add to this on 908 North Locust, as you already described, is in dire need of help, and I think it's beyond that point.
All right, Mr. Hernandez, anything else you'd like for us to consider in public hearing today?
Well, this is another question. I do have storage sheds in the back that have stored a lot of my equipment, house building equipment, and they're along the alley. If I were to have it demolished and me paid for it, can I go ahead and leave those structures there, or do I have to, if the city demolishes it, it needs to be taken out?
Is Mrs. Lee with us? I'm not sure, and
Yeah, the community development, I guess. I should ask that question to them?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
that's okay. Mrs. Lee, can you advise Mr. Hernandez what his options are? And I'm sure that Mr. Elmer probably can too. I yield to you first, so.
No, that's okay. We would have to visit, I would have to visit the staff because I don't remember. Those are portable containers, I think. So I need to confirm whether a portable container can remain as a primary use.
Right.
Again, in an industrial zone, we do have more flexibility with storage than we do in residential, but we do need to confirm that with you before. But it won't make any difference whether we remove it or he removes it. The use of the portable containers is just a standalone consideration.
Okay. And we will get together at a later date for that meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything else that needs to be brought forth, or anybody else from the public that would like to be heard on 908 North Locust? If not, we will close that hearing at 8:05. That moves us on to the next item on our agenda.
Request for approval of resolution to condemn an unsafe and dangerous single-family structure and accessory structure at 908 North Locust in Ottawa.
This resolution authorizes the governing body to declare the single-family structure and accessory structure located at 908 North Locust to be unsafe or dangerous, and to direct that such structures be demolished or repaired and to be made safe and secure. So, Commissioners, is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion we approve item 19 on our agenda, whether it be 908 or 918. I guess that'll be resolved later, but the structure we're talking about in the photo.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion among Commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Weigand?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
And Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. All right, that moves us on to the next item on the agenda.
Public hearing to consider condemnation of a mobile home structure and accessory structure located at 821 South Cherry in Ottawa.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration for the condemnation of a mobile home structure and accessory structure at 821 South Cherry. City staff will present the details and of this request for condemnation. Mr. Elmer, what do you have? Actually, let me call this public hearing to order. 8:06. Mr. Elmer, what do you have for us today?
Good evening, Commissioners, Madam Mayor. 821 South Cherry. We've been working on this particular property since 2019. So just trying to get find out what their intentions or plans were for this particular property. So with that, we've been multiple times, 2019, 2020, 21, writing letters and just asking for a response back from the property owner as far as what their plan or intentions were for this particular property. It is our best assessment that we would like to request for consideration that this property, with our knowledge, should be condemned and with its removal.
And the owners of the property are listed as whom?
That is Mr. Hernandez
All
of the
right.
property, not of the trailer.
Okay. So, Mr. Hernandez, would you like to speak regarding this matter?
Yes, I do. The people that own the trailer, I've tried to get a hold of them for years. At this point, I just recently got ownership of the property, of the trailer itself. The property is mine. But the general contractor, upon looking at it, said he can't do nothing until it's cleaned out. They were kind of the hoarder type people. So I am in the process of cleaning it out. I have put a roll-off in front of the door so that we can start shoveling everything that was in the house into the dumpster. At that point, I'd like the general to come in and kind of give me an idea of what it would take to refurbish it to make it livable. From what I've cleared out so far, it doesn't look like in too bad a condition as far as the floors and the ceiling. So, until last month, actually almost last week, I didn't even get possession of the house or the trailer until then. And I wasn't even allowed in it, so I did not look at or even see what was available. I did see, or what was that there? I did see that it does have an air conditioning compressor unit outside, that if it were hooked up to, the utilities I think are unhooked maybe, that if it were hooked up would be usable. So, and I'm looking at the HVAC, it did look usable without really turning it on at this point, that I can do at this point. The condition of the inside of the walls seem to be in fairly good condition. Little trim work needs to be around the windows. But at this point, I've just partially cleaned it out, and I was hoping for a little more time so that I can get a better idea of what it would cost to either repair it or to haul it out and bring in a new one. So,
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
How old of a structure is this?
well, that's an 80, a 1980.
Okay.
At least that's what the taxes, you know, the people that were living there never paid the taxes, never paid the rent. So, you know, I don't know, you know, other than the year, that's what is recorded in the Treasury Department.
Gotcha.
And do we have the city attorney available? Is he still on?
I don't know. City Attorney Sentry available?
The only reason I'm asking is, and I can never remember the date. I think it was
It's
72.
the 70s.
Yeah.
I know it's
There's a date
76 or
that the
76 or
statute
78.
says that there's a
79
cutoff
or
that you can no longer do any remodeling
Right.
to it. And
Yes.
I just want to know for sure, because you may be wasting your time if it's so old.
Right.
So.
If it
There
were
should
older
be
than
a-
72, I think,
There
then
should be a HUD tag.
It's 78.
78.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Who was it that just yelled that out?
Mayor, Commissioners, City People, Bench. We'll have community development check for sure. The number at 6 in my head is 76. Commissioner Wygant thinks it's 78. But we'll have them check for sure and give them the right guidance on that as we go forward.
Terry Elmer, Chief Building Official, Commissioners and Mayor, the year is 1976.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is the year in which that it can no longer be rehabbed, or is that the year that you have of record that this is the age of 821 South Cherry? I just want clarification on that, Mr. Elmer.
Anything older than that cannot be repaired.
Okay.
I stand corrected. Okay.
It appears to me, when I'm looking back at, again, our agenda packet, over 70 days ago, the pictures, we've got windows out, skirting out. I mean, there's half the door gone. Lots of stuff going on this particular property. So I'm concerned when you say like, oh, it doesn't look like there's much to be done. Whoa.
Well, you know, a door is a door is a door. You know, you can get them anywhere, and you know, until I find out from who's an expert, my general contractor, it's hard for me to say, well, you know, I can fix it or I can't.
Okay. All right. So, Commissioners, Mr. Hernandez, are there other things you'd like to
Let me
present
see
regarding
here.
this process or this property?
You were saying there was a lot of skirting missing, but I don't remember a lot where that skirting was missing from. Because I do mow around it all the time. I keep the grass down, so I'm trying to think of where that might have been. But I do know that some of the other trailers that are coming up, they did have the skirting missing around it.
Okay.
You probably got pictures of it.
I do. I'm looking at pictures that were presented to us
Sure.
70 or so days ago, of concern. Anything else that needs to be brought forth during the public hearing?
Not that I think of.
Mr. Elmer, anything else that needs to be brought forward on this property at 821 South Cherry?
No, ma'am. I mean, Greg has been working with us and keeping us a little bit of advice as far as, I know he's working with trying to get ownership of this trailer, so he has spoken with me multiple times. But again, he's just been trying to work it out, so I give him credit for that and trying to get this resolved.
Just another question, Mr. Hernandez. I mean, Mr. Martin provided some financing that he's got arranged for his project. What's your position? If, you don't need to tell us what you have in the way of cash position, but are you comfortable with what you have to be able to complete this project?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Elmer, can you tell me when the last time utilities were onto this mobile home?
Utilities were put on hold in 2020.
Thank you.
But again, Mr. Elmer, we have been writing the owners of this property since 2019, right?
That is correct.
Mr. Elmer, can you confirm the address we've been sending the letters?
As far as let me see if I can have that in my file. They've been going to 1024 North Mulberry, Ottawa, Kansas.
Which I believe is the property that Mr. Hernandez provided to us earlier.
Yeah, that is the address I live at. I just want to verify or make sure from him that there wasn't some of these letters sent to the owner, which was Delora Barber, or her son Tom Barber, because those were the people that actually owned it before I got a hold of it last couple of weeks.
Terry Elmer, the letters were sent out to Greg Hernandez. Address received as 1024 North Mulberry, Ottawa, Kansas. That's
Okay.
what I have in my files.
And that was, when was that?
The one that I have currently that I pulled up is June 9th, 2021.
Okay, 2021.
Just the one I pulled.
But it appears as though, Mr. Elmer, did you indicate it to us earlier that you've been having correspondence since 2019 regarding this property? Or did I write that down wrong?
No, we've sent a letter in 2019. We've sent, looks like 3 letters in 2020. And then again, additional letters in 21.
Okay.
I haven't lived at 1024 North Sycamore at 19 in 2019. And I'm not sure that I've been there more than a year, so that would be more
Are
like...
you at North Mulberry or
Yeah,
North
North
Sycamore?
Mulberry, yes. Yeah, 1024 North Mulberry. So I'm trying to think. Previously, I received all my dad's trust information at 1016 North Mulberry. And that property is under his trust. So I don't know if maybe he sent it to 1016 North Mulberry, which is fairly close to where I live, 1024. So I just want to make sure that I had gotten the information. And maybe, I'm trying to figure out how, my memory slips a little bit, so I'm not sure how long I've been at that house, but I'm pretty sure I haven't been there more than a year, so. And the only reason I'm asking is I just want to make sure that that technically if I've received that information, I should have been more active on that, but I obviously wasn't active on it, so that's on me.
Are there other things to be brought forth for the public hearing on 821 South Cherry? If not, we will close this public hearing at 8:18. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Request for approval of resolution to condemn an unsafe and dangerous mobile home structure and accessory structure located at 821 South Cherry in Ottawa.
This resolution authorizes the governing body to declare the mobile home structure and accessory structure located at 821 South Cherry to be unsafe or dangerous, and to direct that structure should be demolished. The single fact that we didn't put the line item in there about or repaired and made safe and secure does make me wonder about the date of the age of the structure. Something we probably need to look at. Commissioners, is there questions, or how would you like to proceed regarding this resolution?
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner?
I move to approve the resolution as described in item 21 of the agenda.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion among commissioners? All right, then we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Weigand?
I vote yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you. That moves us on to the next item on our agenda.
Public hearing to consider condemnation of a mobile home structure located at 801 South Cherry in Ottawa.
This public hearing has been called for the consideration of condemnation of a mobile home structure at 801 South Cherry. City staff will present the details of this request for condemnation. I'm going to open up this public hearing and at 8:20 and ask for Mr. Elmer to please give us his comments.
Commissioners and Madam Mayor, as far as on this particular item, I'm not certain how we need to proceed forward on this one. This structure has been removed, so I'm not certain if we need to move forward with consideration and recommendation for condemnation or what our actual procedure needs to be with this property.
So, Mr. Elmer, the pictures that are before us, the picture on the left, it appears to be the picture that may have been in our packet a few months back. And then the picture on the right, is that a current today picture?
That is correct. He pulled the permit, closed it out on this particular property, so the structure is gone.
And so in that particular picture, it appears as though that there's also a garage in the back. Is that on another parcel?
Yes, that's in another property.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions? Is there a procedural way in which that we are supposed to move forward on this, city attorney?
Is this one of the removed ones?
Yes.
Yeah, if it's removed and you just want to note that it's been removed, close your public hearing and there's no need to adopt the ordinance.
We do need to adopt the ordinance or the resolution, or do not?
Do not if it's been removed from the list.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to say on this, Mr. Hernandez?
Well, like I said, it's removed, but,
Would you want to come to the microphone just so the public can hear you? Sorry.
yeah, it has been removed, but I'm, even though it's not part of the subject, I didn't hear that I'd have any time on the 821 or 821 to have my general contractor and repair it or give me an estimate.
We can circle back around to that
Okay.
after this public hearing,
Okay.
but let's process through this really
Right,
quick, and then
right.
we'll clarify for you.
Okay, well, like I said, it's all cleared off. Even a couple of trees were taken down.
Okay. Well.
So,
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? Anything for Mr. Elmer? All right, then we will close the public hearing at 8:22, and then we will not worry about 23, which is the resolution to condemn the structure, which is no longer there at 801 South Cherry. However, we will go back to, just to advise Mr. Hernandez, is the same Terry or Mrs. Lee, he still has a 30-day window in which to work on the previous property, even though the resolution has been passed? Yes, Mrs.
Terry
Lee?
yeah, this is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. Terry may want to address this. My understanding was, and the reason the resolution was worded that way was that there probably wasn't an ability to repair it. That may come from not knowing its age at the time, or knowing its condition. So I'll defer to Terry on it.
Terry Elmer, Chief Building. Yes, on the 821, the item on there didn't identify it to be repaired, but to be removed. It was our assessment, again, not knowing the year, and our assessment of the property without actually being inside, that it would need to be removed without any kind of potential repairs.
Okay. Excellent. Does that give you some indication of where we're moving there? Can you come forward? Sorry.
No.
We just wanna
Just
make
getting
sure.
up, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Once I'm up, that's fine. So my understanding is because it previously wasn't known the year, that's the reason why that ability to repair wasn't in there. Now that we know the year, then that option of repairing is still out there then. That's what he's saying, or is that what?
It appears, Mr. Elmer, you may want to clarify, and possibly our city attorney needs to clarify, but it doesn't appear as though rehabbing this particular structure is an option.
Chair, I'm Chief Building Official. Yeah, what we would have to do is get back with Greg Hernandez, once he gets the property cleared out, to where we can make a better assessment, because the year does allow it to be removed or be repaired, but ultimately we would need to assess it to see if it's repairable or if it's beyond repair.
So it appears as though it's a conversation that he needs to be having with community development, which it also appears as though Mr. Hernandez will be having more conversations with your department, so.
Sounds
just
like a
add
lot of
another
things being
thing.
brought up, so
Yes.
that's fine. I have no
Add
issue
another
with
thing
that.
to the list. All right, so we're going to move on to item 24 on the agenda.
Public hearing to consider condemnation of a mobile home structure located at 805 South Cherry in Ottawa.
This public hearing is being called for consideration of condemnation of a mobile home structure at 805 South Cherry. City will present details of this request for condemnation. I'm going to open the public hearing at 8:26, and I will yield to Mr. Elmer for comments from staff.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, again, this property at 805 South Cherry has been removed. It looks like it's the same image, but these structures were side by side, so that's why we're reflecting it as a single image. But this structure has been removed as well at 805 South Cherry.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hernandez, did you?
No.
I know you had asked for public comment on this particular
no,
property.
that's
Okay. Commissioners, we have heard from Mr. Elmer. Is there anything else you'd like to bring forward?
I just want to say I appreciate Mr. Hernandez taking care of these ahead of time, so you've done your due diligence. Thank you for that.
If nothing else to be brought forward, we will close this at 8:27, the public hearing. And it does not appear as though we need to approve a resolution that is listed in our agenda on 25. So we've gone through many structures today, and it appears as though we may be able to get them back into residential use. So we hope that, certainly. That moves us on to item 26 on the agenda.
Request for approval of ordinance number 3543 to exempt a certain subdivision from the provisions of section 12-501 of the zoning regulations.
The Land Bank has asked for a review of the zoning for the Coves, and the city attorney recommended it be amended. The Planning Commission was consulted, and staff recommends approval. Mrs. Lee, do you have something to present to us regarding this particular request?
This is Wendy Lee, Director of Community Development. I don't really have anything to add to that other than as the comments reflected, this initial issue was identified in the Land Bank meetings. We have, after the city attorney reviewed the consideration of a waiver, determined that the best thing to do is to adopt or amend the original ordinance. And so you'll see all the language in there that was originally required as part of that adoption, with the amendment to that, excluding that section. The Planning Commission met last week, and they were advised of this and understood. They also, we had some discussion about the co-recommendation, which was for them to study the issue, so they will be doing that. Other than that, I don't have any further comments unless you have a question.
Commissioners, do you have questions for Mrs. Lee regarding this request for approval of the ordinance that the Land Bank brought us, those trustees?
Mayor,
Yes.
I move to
Commissioner.
approve the request as I move to approve the ordinance as described in item 26 of our agenda.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Mayor Pro Tem Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Weigand?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
And Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you. That moves us on to reports by our city manager. City Manager Neinstead, what do you have for us this evening?
Commissioners, Richard Neinstead, City Manager. I have nothing for you this evening.
Okay, that moves us on to reports by our city commissioners. And I'm going to start with Mayor Pro Tem Crowley.
I have no report. Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to move on to Commissioner Skidmore.
I have no report. I do want to add on, I guess, except that I appreciate, Mr. Martin, your investment in our community this way. I'm glad to see some of the good things happening here tonight with regard to improving our properties, along with Greg moving those 2 mobile homes. That certainly improved our community too. So thank you both for your involvement in our community.
And that would move us on to Commissioner Jorgensen.
I'd just like to apologize for my clothes this evening. I had a day off and I picked up my kids at the airport and got back to town about 5-10 minutes before. But in 16 years, I have not worn a T-shirt to a city commission meeting. But I guess towards the end of my tenure, I can do
slacking.
that. So.
I was hoping you were going to say something about that.
Okay.
Well, we're glad your kids made it into town safely. And more importantly, like, do you have a grandchild at your house?
Well, that's right.
I mean, so the
Yeah.
kids are really secondary compared to the grandchild,
That's right.
Okay, well, we're glad you made it to the meeting. Commissioner Weigand, do you have comments for tonight?
I have no report. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I'm with grandkids in Northeast Iowa.
All right, excellent. Well, another good excuse, being with grandkids. That moves us on to reports by the mayor. The city manager and I had the opportunity to have coffee with the new OU CEO today, and what a delight that was to have a conversation about things that are going on at Ottawa University. Tomorrow begins where we are flooded with a bunch of new students here in our community. We have been kind of trickling in some new students this all week long. But please, if you happen to see someone and they look as though they may be new to our community, even if they're not, just please remember Kansas Nice, and I know that I don't have to tell anybody that, but we have individuals who truly are coming from all around the world. I know the other day on Monday I met a student from Hungary who had come in, and a few students from Canada. And so remember that we are welcoming them to our community, and this is their community for the next several months. And so we want to welcome them with open arms and with all the grace that we can. I also want to thank the police department and for hosting and putting together a really successful neighborhood night out. I was honestly very impressed with the number of individuals that were there. My husband and I got there shortly after 6, and I think I probably had a look of shock about how many people were there. There was just a great outpouring of individuals and lots of good fellowship going on there. So bravo to the police department for putting together a really successful neighborhood night out, or national night out. Sorry, my mistake. I believe that's it for today. Note that we do have a study session on the 9th and on the 16th at 4 p.m. We have a land bank meeting on the 18th at 8:45, followed by our commission photo at 9:45 and our regular meeting at 10 a.m. If there's nothing else to be brought forth to the commission today, we will adjourn this meeting.